So, okay. Peace and blessings upon everyone here today on another live session of Divaan Ishq. We welcome you all with our hearts and thank you, Kitty and everyone here for showing up. We have our special guest of honor, my very close friend of the heart, someone I met and very deeply connected to in the Kingdom of Arabia, and we're still friends, and it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you. Actually, we met 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
2013, actually.
Yeah, we did. So what we'll do is, all our sessions are very unofficial. What I'll do though first is I will begin with a slight intro, your modest little, stuff that you provided. I'm going to read that. Okay. Kitty Amina Rabbas was born in Germany. She started working at the King Faisal Specialist Hospital, Jeddah, KSA, in 2001. The hospital delegated her on a private nursing assignment in 2005, and she remained on this assignment till 2015. Kitty Amina and Romanian artist Maria Sismaru met in Germany and shared a close friendship during the years 2008 to 2011. Maria's approach to spirituality had a profound impact on Kitty. As Kitty was working in Saudi Arabia during this time, she began collecting Maria's paintings, being within her capacity patron of Maria's art. Signed on to Islam in 2010, and completed a narration sketching out her path to the religion via its mystical approach. Mysticism and hitherto visual contemporary art have been two fields, or indeed disciplines, traditionally marginalized in Saudi Arabia. Exhibiting the collection was therefore an attempt at illustrating the importance, vitality, and energy of both, hence art and its effect. A story about fine art guiding a way to an understanding of fine truth behind everything and the message of the Quran. At her exhibition in March 2015, the author met Turkish cameraman Omar Faruk Aksoy, both married in Ramadan the same year and moved to Turkey in 2017. Bracket and addition from me. Faruk is a 1111. Right? Yeah. Okay. Inspired by William Chittick's phrase of divine disclosure, this catalog and the collection
this was just, I sent you from the catalog the summary. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So do you want me to read this?
I mean, it doesn't.
Okay.
Just great.
Okay. So let me read the gray one here, the next one.
Yeah, this is actually basically the other one. It's that basically says everything really. What you just said.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So let me just see here. So who do we have here? We have everyone in here. And who's K? I'm just curious. It's not a Saudi spy or anything.
Oh, there's somebody in.
Yeah, I guess they will have to reply. So, yeah, so basically we have you here. There's a lot of things obviously missing in your introduction, but I'm sure we can, bring that in through whatever I know. And we'd like to just begin. Louisa.
Thanks, Alicia, for introducing the session. And thank you so much, Kitty, for agreeing to join us today.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. I've heard a lot about you from Alicia, which I'm sure everyone who is in touch with Alicia does. Yeah. She's made it very clear just how much of a powerhouse you are and how influential you've been on her Saudi, experience in general.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add to what Alicia already, mentioned about yourself before we start?
I don't know if it was very, I listened to us. I listened to it. I'm not sure if you understood, what was said. I mean, it's like, I came to it's basically about in 2015. There was like a Romanian artist. She lived in Germany and she couldn't really speak German very well. And I was already in Saudi Arabia working. And one of my friends, he said, why don't you spend a little bit of time with her? Because she doesn't speak German very well, and like she's alone, she's feeling really outside in Germany. So we shared I became a very close friend to her, mainly because in Germany you could not speak about this experience I had in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, you cannot bypass religion. Now, religion is a totally off topic in Germany. Nobody knows how to speak about religion, actually. So I was like, you in Saudi, you cannot bypass it. It's blocking your way. You cannot. So I spoke with Maria about it, and she was very much into spirituality, but like really like a free spirit, like an artist, actually. And she always used to tell me, this life is an eternal duality. Actually, she said that to me. So those words, they had like a huge impact on me. And then when I came later on, I started collecting her paintings just to support her, actually. But then somebody pushed me to read the Quran in Saudi Arabia, and then those things, those ayahs, like Allah says to us, can't you see I created everything in pairs? So I saw this duality theme, what she told me, I saw it actually in the Quran as well. And then I kind of I narrated her artworks, and I made a collection, Art in its Effect, the 3 dualities mentioned in the Quran. This was actually based on a book by a Japanese author, Sachiko Murata, with the Tao of Islam. And so I kind of so the first duality is within us, which is the nafs and the ruh, which is a Sufi subject. The second duality is like the one on the human relationships, which is like Adam and Eve, between massive men and women. And then on the level of society, which is like art and government relation, how they balance each other. So I made this exhibition, and that's where I met my husband. And then we moved to Istanbul. Yeah. So that is like behind what Alicia read, actually.
Can I have something? I didn't really get the part. So you were exhibiting the art and maybe the poetry with it, or she was
No, it's you see, like when I met Maria, she was like I didn't know her, and also I have to say I didn't know anything, actually. I was like not into arts. Was not into religion, not into spirituality. I think she was kind of like a guide sent to me, actually.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, I think so, actually, because she was like she grew up in Romania, and she was now an outsider in Germany, and I was like a German being in Saudi, basically. So like both of us knew this experience of being in a totally different culture, you know, and because she was so spiritual and I was like so overwhelmed in Saudi Arabia with everything you said had to be, there had to be a really, Prophet Muhammad had to move into the sentence, you know, so like you cannot bypass it in Saudi actually. So, you know, I was also, I kind of like made it like a joke, but then we actually went into an exhibition in one stage. That was actually a real turning point. When you say turning point, Alicia gave me like a list with this question she might ask. A real turning point was actually Maria and I, we went to an exhibition in 2008. It called People of the Amazons. Oh. And so we went in, it was by a German photographer, and he photographed all these indigenous people. So I said to Maria, really stupid, I said to her, I wonder why they don't want to civilize, actually. They run around in their costumes and like, you know, so I said, it's like unbelievable on what level I was actually. So she said to me at the time, you know, you have these people everywhere. You have them in like South America and in like the Himalayan and like in Australia. And these indigenous people keep the balance of our planet. And this sentence kind of like, I could not take it out of my mind anymore. This was really the beginning, actually. From then on, like a year later, you know, I was confronted with the Quran. And then I just like, after 4 months, I became Muslim, actually. Mm. Wow. I mean, this was all very fast. And then I started to go. I read the Tower of Islam, which was another landmark event, actually. So I understood, like within 10 days, I read the book in Ramadan in 2011. And then, you know, I started to really focus to collect her paintings. And I made this kind of like narration, how I understood the gender concept in Islam, because I never wanted to get married before. And then after reading the Tower of Islam, I understood that actually in Europe and in the Western world, we actually have no concept of gender. And but actually the divine concept of gender, as we perceive it in Islam, it's actually kind of a stabilizer for a relationship. So like, then I exhibited about this and I met my husband. So
very strange. Yeah, subhanallah, that happened. That's a beautiful story. And it's, you know, يعني وخلقنا من يعني كل شيء يعني زوجين يعني, you know, I think it's part of the universal law, you know, the universal laws. It's not just three things that are dual. It's there are many things that are dual. Almost, I think everything is dual except I'm not sure. Our hearts and Allah, yani, and our hearts if they're part of. This is the question I have, but in general, that's a very beautiful story because it's strange how I felt your story at the beginning of it, at least, that everything is just, you know, it was sent to you, and then it's like really quickly goes and falls into this beautiful story. Yeah, so inshallah, to continue to be beautiful and with full of iman.
Yeah,
this is like kind of behind what Alicia said.
We did a recording in Jeddah during the time Kitty was exhibiting. At that same time, in parallel, I was running a master class, right, through Arabian Jewel, which is a platform to connect expats to the jewels of Arabia. So my friend Farah and I both decided we're going to do a master class, and I had already knew Farouk Aksoy, the world-renowned photographer that Kitty's married to. So what happened was we decided we're going to bring in Farouk Aksoy, Ben Salim Bu Abdullah, and who was the third one? Surfer?
Ovidio Salazar.
Yes, Ovidio Salazar. So all three, like the Three Stooges, they were like the pioneers of Sufi filmmaking in Europe, basically. So this was like absolutely unprecedented in I was
Yeah,
like in
true.
India, in Saudi Arabia, right? So thanks to, you know,
Yeah,
this
it's true.
collaboration we had, these three came in. And at that time, allow me to reveal a few
Yeah.
things. Kitty was, I think you were done working with the Royals, right? Because in
Yeah.
between, that was missed in the bio. She was working for the Royals for a number of years. And it was just at that time, there was a major shakeup in your life, if you don't,
Yeah.
in your professional life. So she was no more working, so she was in transition. And we were on the last day of our workshop, right? Masterclass, sorry. And that last day required filming in Balad. Balad is the old city in Jeddah, which anyone who goes to Saudi must go there. It's where Eve is buried. It's a historical aspect, and it's preserved by UNESCO, a historical part of the city. So I said, Kitty, you're gonna be out of whatever you're feeling, all this confusion and whatnot that she had to go through. And I said, just please come. I'm going to introduce you to these really cool individuals who have come. And so she listened. And when she came, I actually low-key intended that I would try to introduce her to one of the gentlemen, like who was, you know, I won't say which one. And Ben Salem. So I thought, okay, you know, whatever, good match, whatnot. And anyways, we went there, and Kitty became our guide for Balad because she was just so aware of the history. So now we're taking this group, the masterclass group, and Kitty's like taking over the whole situation. Everyone's like, okay, Kitty, where are we and what's happening? So we had this beautiful sort of tour and filming we were doing in Balad. And I think we decided that on one of your last days of your exhibit, we would bring in one of our camera guys of Arabian Jewel and do a documentary of your journey to Islam through art. So that's also available on YouTube.
But
And
actually, I have to, you know, sometimes I actually, you know, like sometimes at the moment you're not really so aware of what's actually going on, right? So later on, I realized, I mean, Maria had like a huge impact on me. And then that I became so receptive to, you know, this life is not just the visible world. Actually, there are more things going on. But you know, it was like a big mercy actually that that somebody gave me or pushed me to read the Quran. And then with her, it just like this whole kind of circle, you know, that I was with her, and then through her art, I understood more about the inside of the Quran. It's really kind of amazing to me, actually. Anyway, go ahead.
yes. So anyways, it's back at you, and then you were out of the kingdom, and then Farouk and all of that happened. But you know, we obviously we're going to be talking about Kitty here today, but her husband Farouk, who's equally a dear friend of ours, he's a phenomenal photographer, and he was royally commissioned by the royal family to have exclusive access to the sacred cities and the, you know, the Haramain. And his photography is stunning, to say in the least, phenomenal. So as you can see in the background, you can see some of the images there.
Yeah.
And they also did a documentary on the clock tower, and I believe on King Faisal as well. Correct?
Yeah.
Among a lot of other projects.
Yeah.
So lovely for that. And let's see what we have.
I'll just go on hold for a bit because
Sure.
I'm gonna pray. So just a minute.
Absolutely.
1 second. How do you do this?
Okay. Mahabba, you want to say something? By all means, please.
So Kitty, this is so amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I would like to know more about how did the art and the spirituality weave itself into your consciousness, and how did that help you become Muslim? And then of course you were in Saudi Arabia, so how was your becoming Muslim different from what you were looking or seeing around you of Muslims? If that makes sense.
Mm. I mean, I think it was like it's like a whole process, right? I mean, it's like you can only in retrospective you can like make sense out of it. So basically, Maria, she brought all these different worlds into my life, you know, like this kind of different thinking. And then, like, which is, you know, in Germany, people are not very. I mean, I was not really surrounded by such people. For sure, there are many spiritual people probably, but I just was never surrounded by them. I was always like in sports and like I didn't know anybody like Maria before, and that kind of opened a totally different way of thinking. And also I looked at different books, even though I was actually always I was always interested in before I became Muslim. I was actually very much interested in the Jewish life. And even now I understand to a certain degree the confusion of people in Germany. You know, like if you hear from Germans at the moment, they have a position actually which you nearly don't understand. So how can they be so close to the suffering in Gaza, and kind of have, from political aspect, like a not understandable position actually. But I still understand my own way of thinking. You know, I actually have to go to this subject. Like when I was very young, when we were kids, I grew up with my grandmother. She had to live. She lived in Eastern Prussia, and her father had like restaurants and like a grocery shop. So that kept them there. It was not easy for them to run, even they knew the Russians were coming, and as they were Germans, they should actually escape, but because of their properties, they didn't really want to leave, so they stayed till 1944. But my grandmother told me actually, when we were little, when she was in school one day, she had a broken arm, and so when she came back from being off sick, her classmates actually, her Jewish classmates had disappeared from school. They were all moved to ghettos, but she didn't know that at the time. Whenever she asked her parents, they said, "Oh, be quiet, don't speak about it." So when we were little, our grandmother, she was probably war traumatized. She always told us those stories about her Jewish classmates. So from very small age, I was always pounded with those stories. So World War II is for Germans a huge subject, actually, at least for my generation. And so then all the time it became like now nearly a passion. I went to concentration camps and looked at them. I was reading stories about all those people, like, you know, Mascha Kaliko or Franz Werfel or Thomas Mann, Golo Mann. They kind of had to exile from Germany. So this was like my passion. Even when I came to Saudi Arabia, the first trip directly, I would go to Jerusalem, actually. I took a Subco bus from Jeddah, and I went by bus up to Amman. And then from Amman, I took like a taxi, and I went to Jerusalem. And then I was very confused, because I thought, why are there Palestinians? I was so ignorant. I didn't really know about this whole, you know, in school we learned the Palestinians were terrorists, and like the Jewish were given the land as a compensation for what happened to them to work in World War II. So I all my life was kind of like before more kind of tilted towards Jewish belief, actually. So then, you know, I kind of cleared out these things. And then, so I was also not really receptive when I was in Saudi Arabia towards Muslims, because actually they would always, you know, when you would go in a taxi, they would, for example, tell you, oh, you're German, very good. Hitler killed everybody. So I was like, oh my God. They need to be like corrected. That was my approach. Even when I became like, I used to work then for that family, sometimes I would lecture Princess Sarah and I would say to her, you know, I would straighten out things about Germany and about the past. And then she would greet me with shalom. So it was kind of, you know, I always was on a different side, actually. But not really, you know, like not really fundamental, just, you know, it was more like I had not much interest into Islam, actually. And I thought also Muslims were like outrageous in what they believed, actually. Then when I met Maria, and she kind of like told me different approaches, you know, she kind of prepared me. And then, yeah, and then when I was given, you know, they pushed me to read the Quran in the palace, and I read it, and I just knew in Baqarah it was the truth. Then everything shifted, actually. And then I kind of like became very conscious that there actually, there are two views, you know. So in Islam, so then also those ayahs, for example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he says, so Allah says to us, to Muslims, you know, you are like the ummah of the middle way, the ummatan wasatan. So, and then I also became conscious of those things, that actually first the Qibla was towards Jerusalem, but then we turned towards actually Mecca, that there are two Qiblas. And he said also like that, you know, all of you have your own Qibla, but actually you have, he says then, Ayah 148, race in doing good, you know, like compete in doing good, actually. So this kind of is all my motivation in my art projects, you know. And so that's, yeah, it's the, I don't know if this answers the question.
That's really beautiful. I especially like how you interpret the verses and kind of begin or allowing your art to kind of help you get a more deeper understanding of the faith. So
Yeah.
if you can elaborate, how did you enter Sufi Islam?
I mean, actually, you know, I mean, I was always kind of like reading, actually, you know, like I mean, I read always about those people who escaped, and like, because all of them were actually artists, you know, like Franz Werfel, Klaus Werfel, Franz Werfel, they were all like artists who had to escape Germany because, you know, they were Jewish, but they were also like very expressive in an artistic way, actually, like musicians, painters, writers. So I'm myself, I don't think I'm an artist, you know, I'm just like, I have an understanding of art, and I know what art is telling us. I can see things through art, kind of. So then, you know, when I always started to read books, like, for example, from Hazrat Inayat Khan, and like then when I became close to Alicia, when we were befriended, she initiated me then just before I left into the Naqshbandi Tariqa. And so, you know, I'm following like a sheikh. I see him like every week. And so this is kind of the way, even though I'm not a Sufi. I mean, I think the only Sufi I know is my husband, actually, because Sufis are like, you know, I'm just trying to kind of like for example, you couldn't actually say that you are a Sufi if I understood after reading the Tower of Islam that I have to get married, actually. So this aspect of marriage is actually, you know, for example, if you go into Rumi's writing, he always comes into this, like the wife and the husband, which is representing like the nafs and the ruh. So the nafs is always female, and then the ruh is masculine. So like when marriage is half of the religion, it's kind of like in marriage, you know, the kind of being with each other, it's kind of like it's like a Sufi way, actually. I mean, that's how I understand it, at least.
I'm so curious about this. Sorry to interrupt you, but I find that I've read Murata Suchika, and I found her concepts to be very hierarchical. And this understanding of the masculine and the feminine in Sufism can be very hierarchical. So I'm
is
just
hard,
curious.
yeah.
I'm really curious to understand how you, being the free spirit that you are and were at that time, how did you come to this kind of relational understanding in yourself, and then of course manifest this into an actual marriage?
I mean, it's like you know, there's that one sentence in the Tower of Islam. I would say it actually. The love, the love man and a woman feel for each other is different. So the man, his love is simple because he was created first. So God created Adam with his two hands, and actually, so he was created first. So out of Adam comes Eve. So she have a decree behind Adam. So in the decree, it doesn't mean she's lesser, but she have different functions, actually. So she have to be an internal quality, in my understanding. So so this kind of aspect of the two-faced. So she said, like, so her love is kind of two-faced because she first looks at him if he is the home she came from. Then she looks at him. So her love is not simple. It's kind of like to have like two faces, actually. I found this, actually, I totally recognized in myself that it's true, actually. So I don't know if I understood it directly, actually, from this sentence. And the hierarchy, actually, also. Because that's the root of all hierarchy, actually. That, you know, first of all, we have Allah, then he created Adam, out of Adam come Eve. So this is the hierarchy, actually. You cannot avoid it. It's like that's the concept, actually. So if you acknowledge it, it's good for you because you should not fight it, you know. So that's why also the whole entire gender concept in Western society is now out of balance, because we cannot accept hierarchy, actually. So yeah, that's my understanding, actually.
Interesting. I just want to interject with an interesting story, because I think a little bit of humor is always nice, especially those who are cringing with the
this might be
with the rib situation. So welcome, Afra.
Yeah, true.
We have a DJ doctor in the house here. Okay. Now I had a friend in Saudi. Her name was Sumaya Amba. And what happened was we both intended to publish a book together. And she basically died on me, in a nutshell. Okay. Not died on me, but she passed away. And we weren't able to manifest the project during her life. So I was now supposed to work with her in spirit and complete the promise that I made. And I was running out of, you know, the ABCs of how we're going to do this, because the paintings that she had for the projects were in her family home in Jeddah, and I had the poems. So I started approaching her family members to say, look, I have all the emails. We're supposed to do this project to them. They're like, no, we're not into Sufism. We're not going to really help you out here. And luckily she emailed me all the 21 paintings at that time with whatever camera she took, and she had emailed them to me. So I decided, okay, I'm going to just work with what I have. But in that time of just being slightly frustrated and also going through a mourning with this beautiful friend of mine who had just passed away, a man came in my dream, and he was in Medina, and there was some hotel, and it was like some sort of conference room. And I don't remember asking him his name or anything, but we just exchanged salams or something, and it was like prayer time. And then I just remember now, because I don't have it written down, but something about him being a student of Fethullah Gulen, the great philosopher and personality, if you may, from Turkey. And fast forward to that, I came to know that there's a Farooq Aksoy who is the brother or who's somehow connected to Sumaya Amba. And he's also Turkish. So now I connect to him, and he's in Medina, and he says, I can help you with the project. And when I go to meet him with one of my friends, because I already know that he already slept in the bed of Maulana Sheikh Nazim during his years in his coming into London, I was literally like, I'm gonna go meet like some big saint. So I brought my shawl along, and I met Farooq Aksoy in a cafe in Jeddah, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, wear the shawl, bless the shawl, and all of that. So I met this Farooq Aksoy, who is such an inspiration. And I remember asking him, do you have a website, for all your stuff? And at that time, he said no, but the amount of projects he had done were so phenomenal. But I was so impressed with his level of humility. So when Kitty says she's not a Sufi and my husband is, I give that a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so.
He's just like I think only that's why he could work in Saudi Arabia also. It's all those big personalities, because he's just like able to submit, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I would have a problem even that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just a little icebreaker in between. I'm going to ask you some of the questions we prepared. And if anybody has something that's coming up, feel free to unmute and comment or say anything.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, Kitty.
Alaikum
Alaikum
salam
salam.
wa rahmatullahi wa
I
barakatuh.
just share that it's lovely to hear you talk about, especially when you talk about your husband. I love the faith that you have. You get a it's so cute. It's adorable. May God
Yeah.
bless you. And I would love to have a husband that I get to talk about like that. So beautiful.
Yeah, he's wonderful, really.
That's all. And thank you for the invitation, Alicia.
Yeah, anytime.
Where's she from?
I'm from Comoros Islands, but I live in France.
Okay. Very good.
Kitty, I met Wisat in Uzbekistan. So you guys
Oh.
did see each other there, but you may not remember. She
Oh,
was
we did?
definitely there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was also in Uzbekistan on that trip, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we met. I don't remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
we
neither.
must
I
have.
didn't
we
get
must
to
have.
talk to you. I would have remembered.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Actually, I have a question. I'm working on a project where I feel I have sort of a calling to express just my reflections around Islam and I don't know why, but I feel I had a sort of a calling to express that in dual language, but mainly in English, because I don't know, I felt I had the calling was more specific towards connecting maybe the East and the West, the in a simpler way, like being someone who was born in the States and then coming to Egypt, and my grandfather was used to write in the Sharia, and then he passed away at a young age. I wanted to learn a lot, and I had, surprisingly, in Egypt, not many to learn from, because it was very, I think the learning, I think life is, I don't know what it is, or there are cycles in the way even we learn. And it was a bit too, for me, maybe a bit harsh the way it was taught, or it was more through a hadith, which is okay, but it wasn't for me from the core of the Quran itself. So I shied away from that for years. And then I went back and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to learn myself. So I started reading and reading and reading myself. And then I kind of have this calling to sort of express that, but I don't know, I feel like it's, even with the group of women that I'm learning with, they're extremely educated, extremely knowledgeable, and especially in Arabic. And I'm kind of the sort of the one that's not perfect in Arabic. So I'm learning Arabic better now, after many years of sort of parking it. And yeah, it's tough, and it's beautiful. I mean, the Quran is just amazing, and it's so anyway, so I decided I'm going to express some of those reflections there. And I was always wondering, I don't know, I have this thing that I feel maybe the way I express that is kind of, this sounds a bit too technical, but or too boring, but from like, because I've been in brand and business all my life, and then all of a sudden I have this extreme shift to more of the mystical and approach and the heart, and I was very harsh, and then I moved to this other. But I feel like, what is it that, because I'm asking you from a, you said you had kind of that there's always this maybe not a block, but how like I feel when I speak to a lot of the foreigners or the people who have never read the Quran, that when I come to speak to them, it becomes very simple, and it's an approach that is acceptable. But when you go on the internet and when you try to learn yourself, I think there's a bit of a shock, or
Yeah.
or a bit of, but I'm trying to sort of understand let me put it in back to the business terms, in the target audience. It's very, what is it that scared you from the beginning? Like before you met the artist, what is it that was?
No, it is not scared. No, it didn't scare me, but it's
Or
like,
not get you connected before that. Or...
yeah, I just like I mean, like all the shouting and like the loudness, and like I just like I didn't feel like drawn towards it. It was not like, I'm not afraid, but I just like I still remember when like the boy who actually pushed me to read the Quran, he said, actually, you have to read the Quran. It came actually through an homework in Saudi Arabia. Like, I used to work for that family, and the granddaughter, she had a homework like Islam and modern life. Are they going with each other? Can they function next to each other? Or are they opposing each other, actually? So, and I knew I had the answer in me, actually, but I didn't have the words so it drove me nuts, actually. I was like, but if I wanted to explain, she would say, you have to be, yeah, like, it's like, she wouldn't accept. So I was, God, wanted to give her like examples that they shouldn't go next to it. Even I didn't know the Quran, right? But just like from the fact that religious teaching shouldn't go against modern life, actually. But she would just not accept anything. So, you know, so then when Abdulaziz told me, like, you have to read the Quran, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what they can teach me. I mean, like, because they seem to be like, so I couldn't just like understand how judgments were done in I mean, totally opposite to my judgment, actually, of situations. And everything was always like over emotional and over chaotic. And so I just wasn't really attracted to it, you know. But I just like, I didn't think that it could teach me anything, actually. Yes, it's like this.
Yeah. But thanks. No, I got some of the answers from that. Because yeah, I understand what you mean also from sometimes it's allowed, not everybody. I mean, I think there's a debatable sort of approach, a soft approach as well, that, you know, I think I always see this in for example, the Middle East. There's always a blessing and a curse in, like, how we're very, for example, in Egypt, we're very relaxed, and at the same time, we're also very, you know, we want to have things done, or want our point across. So I learned that there's this kind of, you know, a blessing as well in some things that I haven't seen before. So I'm just thinking about how people can use that in expressing their message.
I mean, it's probably also, you know, like when you, I mean, like now Europe looks very mesquite, right? When you see that way of judging things, right? But at the time when it, like, you know, this was like 2008. I mean, it wasn't the case like that, you know. So it kind of like, you know, it like coming from Europe, and then I looked at many things in the Middle East, actually. So I thought, yeah, because they have no discipline, right? I was thinking to myself. So maybe also very snobby, you know. So but I saw also in the household I was working, actually, the children, they would not have a lot of discipline, actually, you know. But then they pushed the homeworks to me, that I would do their homework, actually, and I enjoyed it, and I was the beneficial. I mean, I benefited from them. But you know, so I kind of, my picture was actually like them and me, and you know, I thought I was better, you know, like this, the ego. And then I was crushed, you know. Then when I came back, and Abdulaziz said, "Did you read the Quran?" And I was crying, yes. You know, so like, I was crushed. So
you were also crushed with something you lost on the plane. You want to just say like one line on that box on the plane?
Oh my God. No, but this came then later on, you know. I mean, like, I had actually, you know, do you mean the jewelry box?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, like, but this was
part of your crushing.
I was already Muslim then, actually. But
yeah, but you have to still be crushed.
Yeah, I was still crushed, actually. Yeah, because then I was again quickly high on my high horse, you know, like. So after I was kind of pounded, actually. I lost my jewelry box one stage, actually, and that was very, very bad, actually.
All your collection of everything over the years working for the royals, she lost it.
Oh God.
In the plane. Yeah. Bulldozed. Okay, let's go to the next question. We have questions as well in the chat, but we can approach those too as we do these ones that we have prepared. You mentioned, by the way, for those who have heard of Shams Friedlander, Allah bless his soul, and Who's the other neighbor?
Michael Sugic.
Michael Sugic, right? So Kitty lives in Turkey, and these are her neighbors, Michael Sugic and the late Shams Friedlander, who
Friedlander,
was
yeah, he was 2 years ago, he passed away.
Yes. So you mentioned about your projects. I don't need to ask anything specific, but if there's anything regarding your projects, your travel, and your works that all sort of fit in together, because I see that what you're doing is you've taken your artistic collection, your art collection, and then there's a merging with the photography of Farouk. There's always a connection in the projects. So is there anything that you'd like to share about, your projects that many of us here are fond of art and have a million projects?
Oh, really? Like all of you, like in the art world, actually.
Well, so some degree or another, there's always some kind of connection with either projects or art or something or another. Yeah. Or traveling, maybe even. Please.
I mean, like, yeah, this is actually now something which is moving me. So, like after I came now to Islam, I signed on to Islam, then I made my narration about how I understood the gender concept. I exhibited, I met my husband. Then Alicia initiated me into the Naqshbandi Tariqa. And then I met Farouk. Outside of Saudi Arabia, we got married a few months later, like 3 months later, actually, in Ramadan in 2015. We met like in March, and we got married like in June. And then in Granada in Spain. And then we met actually Shams Friedlander there. He is an author, and he is actually, I think he's very known about the one book, which I think now that might be one of his best, even though he published actually 11 books. But this is, when you hear hoofbeats, think of a zebra, like meaning, think a different way, actually. Don't think, oh, it's a horse. Think a different way. So I really think that is actually his best book, actually. So, we met him, and then he said, actually, whenever you're in Istanbul, you can come to visit us, actually. So that was when we were in Spain. So like later I went to Germany, and Farouk went back to Saudi. We were married by nikah only because he was still married to his first wife. And then when we went, so in the meantime in Germany, because I was reading the books of Hazrat Inayat Khan, the mystical dimension of music, sound, and word. This book. I read this sometime before, and there it is actually, he said, whenever you change your name, this have an effect on your life, actually. So he gave actually the example of like Jacob, which became later on Israel, and this had a profound effect on him. So then I came to Germany. I was very depressed, actually, because I said, oh my God, I left Saudi Arabia. And I mean, I was like overwhelmed, actually. So I kind of, because Alicia had initiated me into the Naqshbandi Tariqa, I started to listen to Sohbets from Sheikh Nazim. And then I told my dad, I want to put my Muslim name into the passport, because as a statement, but in the back of my mind, I understood, I was hoping that the passport will take me, when I have the name Amina in, to the place I am supposed to be. So then I prepared the passport actually directly after I came back from Saudi Arabia. Then, I traveled around a lot. Then I went to Spain. I met Farouk. We got married. And when I came back home to Germany, my passport was there with the new name. Then I went to see Farouk in Istanbul. And Shams Friedlander, we visited him, and he said, there's an apartment available in our flat. So I said, I mean, I wasn't really ready to buy an apartment in Istanbul, but it seemed that like Farouk, he always used to say, you know, don't buy a house, get a good neighbor. And so like we were now in between Michael Zukic, who was an author, and like Shams Friedlander, and both of them were friends of my husband. So I bought the apartment here in Turkey. And then later on, I found out actually that Shams Friedlander, he was born 1940. Then in the 1960s, he actually was befriended with Vilayat Khan. He's the son of Hasrat Inayat Khan. So Vilayat Khan, Shams' name was like Ira Friedlander. So he was Jewish. And this Vilayat Khan initiated him into the Chishti order, which is just a spiritual order actually. But it's actually a Muslim order, but they promoted it just as a spiritual order. And so he connected Shams to the Chishti order, and he said, the only name I can think of now is like Shams. I give you the name Shams. So his name was before Ira, but then Vilayat Khan gave him the name Shams. And then I was reading all his books and researching. He didn't know anything about Konya, or maybe he heard, but not really in depth. He did until 1972. There was a whirling dervish order sent to New York, to I forgot now to a university, and they made a whirling dervish performance. And Shams Friedlander and Ovidio Salazar, they went there, and they were thrilled. So they went actually to Konya afterwards. And in Konya, he met Muzaffar Effendi, and he met actually other sheikhs of the order. And that's when all his path actually started. And he was the first one who published a book in English language on the Sufis, on Jalaluddin Rumi, actually, and the whirling dervishes. So then I was thinking, how come that actually I'm now a neighbor of Shams Friedlander, and he, from the same source, his name was given by Vilayat Khan, and I put my name, Amina, in the passport under the recommendation of his father, Inayat Khan. You know, I saw all this kind of, so I thought, then he passed away when he died, because I always had like so much trouble to speak with him, because he was like so, no, I don't know what you're saying in your artworks. I cannot see it. So he was always, he was like rejecting to see what I saw actually. And we were always on two sides actually. And then when he passed away, the sheikh actually at the janaza, he said about this elevated position of Shams Friedlander, and then that he was initiated in two tariqas, in the Mevlevi tariqa and in the Jarahi tariqa. And I didn't know he was a Mevlevi, actually. Not that I really had any connection then to the Mevlevis, but it's like, I was thinking, my God, did you argue with like somebody on a very elevated position about what you understand in art and what he couldn't? Because one time he said about my painting, when I said, because of this painting, about Adam and Eve, I had a successful Hajj. So Shams said to me, I'm really sorry about you. And like, you should better stick to making potato salad. You know, so like actually, I was very, that was our discussion all the time. So later on, after he passed away, I really started to see him different actually. And yeah, and that's just kind of leading me to current projects actually. So I thought I was actually kind of like moved here on a purpose, because of the connection of this Chishti connection actually. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
He was a real Shams.
Yeah, he was a Shams actually. And so because what was in my collection, like about the gender concept, right? The most profound message which I submitted totally, actually, ever since, it's like that masculinity was created first. So, I got married, and I everything my whole life is actually, I put in this on this understanding, actually. So then I had art projects, for example, for Konya as a city, to reach out to Balkh in Afghanistan, but this was rejected. Then I supplied now to the Margot Friedlander Award. She is a Holocaust victim in Germany, and she is like 103 years old, and she just kind of like asked us to nominate people for the Margot Friedlander Award. So I nominated James Friedlander because she said all of us should be human, remain human. We all carry the same blood. So I said, yeah, but it's not the blood, actually. It's the soul which incites to evil. So we have to kind of like be open to spiritual teachings. I got dismissed. So I mean, this is my trial at the moment, you see.
I want to ask you, this is so fascinating. I mean, I could be here listening to you all day. You've got so much to share, and I'm really intrigued by this connection that you had with Shams Freelander and his connection to the Chishti path, and to that whole deeper spiritual path. I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on when you said the name has an impact. So you mentioned truth a few times in your conversation, and your name is Amina. And how did that name come to you? And did you choose that name by yourself, for yourself? And how has that impacted your journey?
And yeah, it was actually, like, because I'm German, so everybody said to me, oh, you can be just like a Muslim. You just say like La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you are Muslim. That's what I said. I need a certificate. I said, I'm German, actually. And so somebody from the palace, actually, he made an appointment. At the time, Alicia, she lived on Shara, Palestine. So it was in the Dalla Tower in Jeddah. And so I was like the only Western in a group of like Filipinos. And so we all kind of like made our shahada there. And the sheikh asked me then at the time, there were like, actually at the time, I'm sorry, I have to say, there were like many Turkish TV series, actually. So one girl I really liked on that TV series, her name was Malak. And I really liked the name, and I liked her, actually, her character. So I always thought, why shouldn't I take my Muslim name, like Malak? And then my boss, she did, it means angel, actually. So I said, oh my God, that's very vain to call yourself like Malak. So I kind of stepped away from that. It's better for a mother to call her child like Malak. But if you give your Muslim name, choose Malak, it's kind of like a vain thing, isn't it? I mean, I felt like that. So I didn't actually have a name prepared, and I wasn't even thinking he would ask me. But the sheikh actually said, so what's your Muslim name? So I didn't have a name. I just said Amina. Actually, it came out without thinking. And yeah, so that's how I got this name, actually. And then I just, because of that book, only of that book from Hasrul Inayat Khan, The Mysticism of Music, Sound, and Word, I thought if I put it in my passport, it's like a statement, actually. I want that they know I'm a Muslim. Even my dad, he said at the time, do you think this is a good time? With all the refugees coming to Europe, but so that's what I did, actually. And it that's how it became actually a neighbor to Shams Friedlander. If that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's pretty fascinating. I like your understanding of Malak. I mean, I hear you. Yeah, it definitely, if someone else were to give you that name, that would
Yeah,
make
if
much
your
more
mother
sense.
gives it to you, خلاص, it's your name, right? But if I chose it by myself, it's kind of like, oh my God, is she? What does she think?
Well, now that Alicia has initiated you into the Naqshbandi order, she can give you the name as your teacher.
But this came actually much, much later, you know. The Naqshbandis
Mhm.
came like 5 years after I actually admitted to, you know, I committed to Islam. It was 5 years later I came to the Naqshbandis, actually.
Very interesting, powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Your name, Amina, is so beautiful. I love it. The name of the
Thank
Prophet's
you.
mother, what could be more honorable than that, right?
It's so amazing that I did not think about it, you know. It just, it's just, خلاص, it was, I didn't think about any name actually, except about this Malak. Actually.
So you're now Amina.
Yeah.
I just need 1 minute to make an urgent call. Louisa, shall we go on to the next question? Just a minute.
Yeah, I was thinking, Madiha had asked a question in the chat. I can read it for you, Kitty, too. She says, Salam, it's so inspiring to hear your story. Wondering if you could share any thoughts and wisdom about the womb, specifically related to the creative or mystical aspect of the feminine.
I'm actually, yeah, I heard, like, I have a friend, she's very much into the womb and into the Rahma, the mercy. I'm actually never really got deeper into this topic. Actually, about this divine femininity, like with the woman, like the mercy. I don't know much about it actually.
And what about the creative or the mystical aspect of the feminine? You're yourself very, you know, in the creative fields, and do you have anything?
It's yeah, I actually, I'm just starting to get into this actually. I'm really truly like in the steps of the Tao of Islam, and it's like she doesn't get so much into it. I actually checked it a few times. I just was pushed actually by somebody. Alicia, she knows her, like she's from New York. She's like a crystal healer, and she is very much into this divine feminine aspect, and in the she gets deeper into it, which I'm not. I cannot give sufficient answers to those. I'm still in the process actually of this. I'm more like in the balance actually, you know, like how we balance each other actually, like how the feminine and the masculine are balance each other. But I'm not really just purely into the feminine subject. I'm more like in this how we balance and how we can create balance actually. Yeah, this is basically my topic.
I don't know, Madiha, if you had some follow-up questions or something you wanted to spin on.
No, actually, so for example, but my passion is kind of like to think, why are we in Europe so close towards these subjects actually. You're in Europe now, isn't it? In Finland. It's also kind of amazing because I just spoke to my husband about it actually. Because how you stayed out of World War II, like those Scandinavian countries, more or less actually. So that you are not affected by all this destructive energy, you know. So I was just really recently, I just read about this Henry Coven, and he said actually when he came back from 6 years, he stayed in Istanbul, and then he stayed in Tehran, and then he came back in 1946 to Europe, and he realized that time actually, you know, ever since we never recovered actually spiritually in Europe, and actually like. So now I'm just like my way thinking is more like how we can go back in Europe to kind of like to balance, to bring in like kind of through art projects, like different thoughts, you know. So that is my topic, without being too spiritual, actually. I'm not very spiritual, actually. I think I'm not very spiritual, actually. I just like no, I don't think so.
It's good. It's a blessing. You're blind to it. I wanted to ask you about, you know, these 33 children of yours, your artworks, and how you got them out of Saudi. Where are they now? Because
they're in my storeroom, actually.
And also part of your house.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still here.
They're still there. Okay. And anything in relation to that? What are you going to do with them?
I mean, actually, only like yesterday we went to the French Institute of Anatolian Studies here in Istanbul, because to investigate this philosopher, the French philosopher, and there was a gallery opposite of the institute, and so I went inside. There was like really terrible art, actually, and so but I spoke to the gallery, the girl who worked for the gallery, and she was kind of like very interested in this story. She was very young. I mean, I think she only worked there. Their owner was not there. And she said, we have actually in February, we have a festival about love, and maybe we can exhibit like your artworks, you know, because it's like it's all based on Adam and Eve, and then it goes like anyway, you know about those, and about how I understand that, what I understood from the message of the Torah of Islam, which is actually Ibn Arabi's concept of gender relation, you know, the binding love. I mean, under, you know, Sajiko Morata, what she is actually reflecting is, it's like Ibn Arabi's concept of love, and so this is also echoing out of the Nasser Khamir's Looking for Mu'eddin. You know, when you, I'm not sure if you know this documentary. It's like very long. It's like 3 hours or so. But this is echoing out, and this is exactly what I'm saying in my collection as well. So maybe this will happen, and we have actually, you know, we have another photography. Like, it's like my collections and Farouk's photography collections are two different things. You know, I don't really merge them, actually. So now we have another collection, another narration from Farouk, which we try to exhibit here, but bringing in the clock tower in Saudi Arabia, and not, you know, everybody is kind of saying, oh, the clock tower is so ugly and blah blah blah, and but like kind of more focusing that actually Allah in His mercy, He gives us a big 601 meter tall clock tower opposite the Holy Kaaba and Maqam al-Ibrahim. So shouldn't we interpret this as like, this is a sign for us that your time is limited, actually. We are now 2/3 of all Abrahamic religions are gone already. We are in the last. So what are Muslims do to kind of like how they treat the covenant? We are now at the moment, we are the carrier of the covenant, isn't it? We are still in the Islamic time, and it's the last Abrahamic third, you know, after Judaism, Christianity, you know, we are in Islam. So how are we treating the covenant? And the clock tower in our exhibition concept, we want to interpret as a warning to us, actually. Time is limited, and this time on earth is like you know, is marked for this earthly life, but our souls are eternal. Are we, as Muslims, actually teaching this to the world, or are we just screaming what's going on in Gaza and da da da? I mean, how do we bring our message across, you know? So are we clever enough to also say this life is salvation? So, or are we just like shouting, you know? So this is kind of my trial now.
Now I want to drop a bomb.
Yeah.
Would you allow me? Okay. Okay. Now you're gonna, you know, with Henry Corbin and his writings on the personality of Lady Fatima.
Yeah.
So in this sort of science of hadith, which come through the narrations of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, and the Sunni population doesn't take from the Imams, they take from Bukhari and Muslim and the 6 main hadith books. So one of the narrations that come through the Imams and the 11th Imam, Imam Hassan al-Askari, is the following, and I'm just going to try to narrate it to the best of my memory, that when Adam and Eve were in heaven, there was a beautiful light.
Yeah.
And Adam asked, what is this light? Who is this light? Tell us more about it. And it was told to them that this is Lady Fatima. So when we're told that he's the first man,
yeah,
prior to his creation, is the creation of this queen. And there are many narrations as well that talk about from Allah's light came the light of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and from that light came creation. But between the creation and the Haqiqatul Muhammadiyya or Nur Muhammad, that same light that the prophetic light was created, this particular household, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein, were created from that same light. Then came forth the rest of creation through that same light. So I was pretty shocked, to hear that. And I just wanted to just drop that in there.
Yeah, it's right. I want to get
first.
I want to get that book actually. What he wrote, Henrik, about the man of light, or I have to get it actually, inshallah. Like my neighbor have it maybe in his shop. I want to. Yeah, I really got through it. I got into this now as well, actually.
Right. Okay.
And I want to interject quickly and thank you a lot. I have to excuse myself.
Yeah, it's also really, really long. We're already 1.5 hours actually.
We are already, but Alicia, I know, wants to wrap things up in a proper way, so I won't take that honor from her. But I unfortunately have to go. But I'm just very, very grateful to have met you and to have heard some of your, very exquisite life stories and lessons. So
thank
you so much.
Very nice meeting you.
And salam to everyone.
Salam, Louisa. Thank you. For our next question here, there's not too many left, right? We just try to have some structure as per Kitty's guidance. As per my observation, Kitty, you have a very unique style of taking images from your travels and your research and then doing write-ups. And then the way you even, caps sometimes in between and then your writing style is very alien and very interesting equally. And if anyone's on Facebook, old school, you can add Kitty.
The
Amina.
old school.
Yeah, and you'll notice that in her writing. So I would refer to you as a photojournalist without your permission. And so you naturally are able to, photo document, and go deep into research and then share that in a nutshell with the people, with your audience, with your friends and so forth. So do you have any plans to publish anything?
Not really for the moment, actually. Because no, I mean I just I always think, oh, it's not good enough. I have to think about more. And even though actually, Harun, our neighbor, he always says, "Oh, you should write a book." But I always think, I don't know. Maybe I will one day, but like not at the moment.
Okay. What about Farouk Bey's?
Yeah, he's working at the moment on a book
Okay.
about his Makkah and Medina pictures, and there are also some personal details in it.
Nice. What about any sort of documentary work? Because you both are into, you know, the filming and.
Because he's still busy with the Afliha television show. So they're actually, I think they still have 4 more episodes to do. Yeah, 4 more episodes. And then then we're going to be free, you know, to think about something else.
Okay. Okay, good. Just trying to extract as much as information as we can before you disappear. Do you have any advice for women, like spiritual seekers or women and women
I
of
think
today?
it's actually, it's good to have a sheikh, actually, like, you know, also like how I had you in Saudi Arabia. You were like my guide when it was very difficult, and you kind of like told me, you remember when you said, I wasn't sure if I should leave or if I should wait for my visa, actually, my Saudi visa. And then you said, I think for you it's good to go. And that is kind of like, you know, I just like, I listened to your advice, where I might have maybe waited actually for my visa, actually, you know. So it's always good, I think, to have an advisor who is more on a spiritual higher position. So like if you have a sheikh, it's very good, I think so. And also I ask Sheikh Mehmet often for advice on matters. So that's what I feel.
That's very
If I-
powerful.
Yeah. I think it's good for us. Or like your
that's good.
husband, if you want. But I think it's good to have it's good to have a sheikh, actually. I like it.
It's nice.
Can I
It's a break.
ask a question on that?
Yeah.
When you say it's good to have a sheikh, but like, how does that even work? Like, how do you know you have a sheikh also? You know, like,
Yeah.
because I don't know. For example, for me, I mean, I took bayah with an Naqshbandi years ago, but I always struggled to really identify Sheikh Mehmet as my sheikh, because I feel like there's such a distance, and I just feel he would never understand me. Like he's never lived the life that I lived as a woman, you know.
Yes.
Not.
But I think the French, I mean, what I saw in Uzbekistan especially, I think you have a very nice community, isn't it? I was so impressed with the French community there.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you were really, really wonderful, actually.
Okay, wow.
You really impressed me, actually, as a group, you know.
But with the French group, I was living in Uzbekistan. That's how I.
In Uzbekistan, on the French group, you left I found the Italians very nice, and actually the French, both of you left actually like an impression on me that you were really kind of like close as a group, actually. Maybe it was also because of language, or I'm not sure, but it's like, yeah, you left an impression on me. So I thought you have a sheikh there, isn't it?
No, because that's the thing. Like I lived in Uzbekistan when you guys came, so I saw the French groups coming. I wasn't part of the groups, and now that I'm back in France and I'm in around Paris, but I don't really go to the zikr, and I don't really connect with it. I don't feel like they're as close to you know, as you see it. But I don't feel it like this, because I don't actually. So I don't know. I think. Yes.
Yeah. It's actually, you know, even to tell you, you know, sometimes I'm asking my husband, like, actually, no, I have to start like that. Like, you know, I was just reading about this French philosopher, Henri Corbin, And I was so surprised that he did not convert to Islam. I mean, I was very surprised, actually, after all this research he did and after all the books he published. And he spoke, I mean, some of his quotes, they just like, they're so beautiful. And he did not himself convert to Islam. So that was to me a big surprise. And so then I heard I watched a documentary. Then somebody said he didn't convert because he thought it is actually, he didn't believe in it is possible to convert to another religion. Now this is like, he lived in a different time, actually. I mean, he died 1978, actually. But he said he didn't believe it was possible to convert, that you can change the belief you brought up with, right? And sometimes I'm also thinking, am I really a Muslim, actually? Like when I look at my husband, he really have innate Muslim reactions, actually, right? Where I have to kind of think many times, actually. So I can see that there is something in it. But if you have a sheikh, for example, if you, and it you really kind of like, you read like the awrad every morning, and it's like kind of like, it's really like a spiritual work. Every morning you read the awrad, and like you try to see him as much as possible, even maybe just online. I think it's really, I feel it actually, it is nurturing a connection. I mean, I was very, very lucky. I think I was also very, very lucky, actually. Because I lived for many years in Saudi Arabia, so I was basically pounded with that energy, in Saudi Arabia, actually. And so then I met when Alicia connected me to the Naqshbandis, only 10 days later, I actually met Sheikh Mehmet, in person in France, in Spain. I didn't even know who he was, I just like thought, isn't that the outfit Alicia showed me, like they were wearing, So I mean, I was very lucky to meet the Naqshbandis, and now I'm living here in Istanbul. But I did a lot of effort also,
The outfit.
Yeah, they came like with the turban.
Yeah, they're big dress ups.
So I thought,
They're into
I'm
big
not a
dressing up.
Naqshbandi, actually. I thought I'm not a Naqshbandi, actually, but I am actually, really.
That's what you think. So I wanna just add like 2 cents here, right? Adding on to your wisdom. And I consider you my teacher, by the way.
Oh no.
Right? Oh, come on. Like everyone's like, pretending to be a seeker, but they're actually teachers, and I mean it. So, because all my friends have heard about you. So anyways, equally to everyone here, alhamdulillah. So when I took bay'ah with Maulana Sheikh Nazim in the most not normal way that would normally happen, you would connect with him in physical or through one of his people. So for me, because I was in Saudi Arabia where all of this was mamnu, not allowed, I took initiation. I was initiated in Riyadh, where Wahhabism came forth, right? And 10 years of training under, his guidance through the Owaisi connection, because that's how it was for me in Saudi Arabia, where it was just heart to heart. And I was actually initiated to Maulana Sheikh Nazim. But going back to the whole thing, I felt I was deeply connected to Sheikh Nazim because of his magnetic personality, that sort of, beautiful. Just a minute, please. Sorry about that. So what happened though is that although I was connected to him or to the order through him as the grand sheikh, as a sheikh, he redirected me towards the female guides. This is my own personal experience, for example. So when I went to Egypt in 2009, and through his spiritual guidance, there I was to meet Sheikha al Mu'mineen, who originally came from Sudan. Her family hailed from Mecca, but she lived in Cairo. And so she was for me the plug-in, right? Because there's no way you can get on a call and speak to Maulana except through the Rabita, and they have to transition us. And women, there's something like really, there's a very deep connector factor when women can have that connection with a female guide, for example. So I had to connect to her, and she was actually connected to Sheikh Nazim as well. But she became that plug-in for me and brought me to this invisible guide that even Ibn Arabi talks about, that is Sayyidah Zainab. So that whole trip became the plug-in to the female guide, right? Even though I've never after that said, oh, done with the sheikhs. No, I consider them equally there overseeing, and they are the plugins for the general order, but then there are doors within doors, right? So then that's where this world of female guides opened up for me. And so I felt like, you know, there was a lot of relatability in being able to connect. So that sometimes opens up for ladies as well on the path. And not to say that we cut off our shuyukh, because I am connected to Maulana Sheikh Mehmed, but I think, at least, you know, what I consciously know, I can see Maulana Sheikh Nazim in him, and I've spent time with him, and I love him and I respect him. But there was some different effect that Sheikh Nazim had on me that I don't know if I'll be able to get that through any male guide. But I love him and I respect him and all of that. And he's still, you know, the guide too. But also being initiated into various orders, I'm just like a big, you know, mix up here. But I'm just saying, like, you know, my way
Even your
was that,
dad.
yeah, I don't know. So there was a lot of openings for female guides because of that. And then what we do is we are connecting women to the same guide, because a lot of these women who end up coming, they are somehow or another, they are connected to this female figure of, say, the Zainab, which is very important in this era. And you'll see it in Henry Corbin's teachings as well about all of that kind of stuff. So, because he talks about the Mahdi and these kinds of topics too, right? Right. So that's just like something I just wanted to share.
I just wanted to also mention, I mean, to mention that I don't know, I also have taken a bit of the guide, the Quran itself, honestly. So in terms of learning, I sort of immersed in that. And yes, I do have a group of women we discuss and we read every morning. But I don't know. I mean, I feel that the Quran also has it's complete, and it when you want to sort of reconfirm something in life, you can then go out and read more. But it's also like a huge it's just to me it's just very complete. I'm not saying that there is I mean, I totally respect the knowledge of others, but for me it's very, very, very it's oceans of Allah's words, and just reading it once and twice and three times and re-looking into that, I feel sometimes maybe because while I was older in life and learning again in the late stage, I feel that the words of Sayyidina Muhammad, the words of Allah, sorry, and through the message itself and learning that, I feel that that is the guide for me. So I don't know.
Yes.
I have been a bit discouraged, maybe to say that many times to some of the tariqas, but I think it is also sort of just my truth at the moment. I also sometimes couldn't connect, but I do connect with the Quran very, very much every day.
Mashallah.
I think that is where I feel the learning is, and I have many women guides that we have discussions together about, and we dig deep into the meanings of the knowledge, the words, the wisdom. So I just wanted to say that, not in a sense of neglecting anyone's knowledge, but just that's maybe how
Yeah.
the learning, and through many readings and books otherwise. But the main source for me is honestly the Quran. I don't know if that makes any
Yeah, that's
anyone.
As for me, every time I try to read the Quran, it just makes me want, it makes me want to close it and just stop, because I find it harsh to read it, actually. So I would love to be, to feel connected to it and not feel the need for, but it just feels so, wow, it's very guilt tripping in a way. My experience with it is very like, oh, wow, like, no, no, no. And I can't, there's a part of me that really can't accept and submit myself, maybe, I don't know how you would say, but to the idea of a God that would call certain people that he would have created himself hypocrites or such and such. And I'm like, then it just I don't know, it just, I'm sorry to say it like that, but it actually puts me off, kind of. Yeah, it puts me off. Yes. Like,
you're cute.
So, the other day I was talking to really respect your opinions, Wisat and Madiha. Thank you for just being so real. I think we have definitely an overly masculine interpretation of the Quran, which happened over the centuries. And there is the tafsir, and then there's the ta'wil. Ta'wil is the esoteric understanding of the Quran, and majority of the translations that are out there, they have removed the ta'wil, which removes like this other dimension, and it's a very masculine way of interpreting the Quran. Not to say anything's wrong with that, but that's probably something that is being picked up by women and so forth. So I don't have an answer for all this, but I would say that over like the past few years, I had resigned, not resigned, but I consciously became a student of Dr. Lale Bakhtiar for her science and enneagrams. And I was guided to that spiritually. And even though I never met her, but, I was learning that science supposedly through her. And what I came to know was that she was a scholar in her own right, a very, very learned person who traveled to, various countries to learn Arabic and Persian and so forth. So she actually, in her many works, she has an interpretation of the Quran. So that's through a feminine lens, and that she's a scholar of this century. So you may want to also look into her works, because she debunked a lot of things that were almost a normative in terms of our understanding. So I don't know if that helps. And you may want to look into her works as well. And you can see some of the stuff on YouTube, and alternative ways of understanding the Quran, because it doesn't always digest with everybody what is out there, for example. So agreed.
I actually want to say something.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Me? No, I just wanted to say, recently Sheikh Bahuddin, actually the brother of Sheikh Mahmoud, he said something very, very good. He said actually there are like 8 billion egos out, so like it's like it's a miracle if you kind of like find people who can more or less agreed to your way of thinking, you know. It's like, and there are so many scholars in interpretation, actually. It's like you're very lucky if you have a small group. There are just so many ways of interpreting things, isn't it? It's like I'm just like lucky enough. I found in the Tower of Islam something which totally resonated with me, and I just applied it to my life, and khalas, that's how I'm going, you know. So it's actually even nearly impossible to give somebody advice, because you can only just kind of give your experience. If it resonates with somebody else, I don't know. It's because everybody's so different, actually, isn't it?
Yes, I totally agree. There are like, I used to have a place I called it Bawabet, which means gateways. So there are definitely, 8 billion egos out there. But I actually see a lot of I see the absolute balance in the Quran with the feminine and the masculine, and
Yeah, me too.
and I don't see this, I do, when I do read, of course, sometimes I associate with, like, for example, Surah Taha, I'm reading that a lot. I studied it in depth, and I look at, how Moses associates with, he deals with Pharaoh. And on that guilt siding, for example, trip, I look into, say, I don't feel the guilt, I feel the awareness. I mean, the entry of the surah it is there for a remembrance for all of us, that we could also be the Pharaoh, at times. So I say it from really a very, inshallah, humble aspect of, I just feel with the world growing and these 8 billion opinions, that I kind of, maybe it's just the fear of time, like you were saying beautifully. Time is it's the clock, it's short, and I kind of want to have the knowledge from the source, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that I also have a group of women that, we fight every day. What does this mean? What does this mean? Let's go here, let's go there. And so it's really a zikr, remembrance of how to reach, inshallah, the truth always. So al-haq, So and I do also respect the shuyukh and everything, but maybe, like you said,
Yeah.
each one has their passageway. So I think we just, like you were talking about your whole, your journey towards Islam. I think mine just like it just hit with the Quran directly. So
Oh,
I don't know, maybe, and the learning of Arabic, of course, because that supports a bit. So I hope it was not taken in the sense of arrogance, noble acts. I really love to hear everybody, but at the end of the day, I go back, and search
yeah.
the the meaning. And I think, like you were mentioning a beautiful book, or one of my projects is related about the words of sort of the. I think it was a book you mentioned, Henry. No, no, the mysticism of sound and words.
Yeah. Music, the Hasrat Inayat Khan, the mysticism of music, sound, and word.
Yeah, and I think that's also, there's part of my journey that has to do with the sound itself of the Quran, and studying that, even like, from like almost like a metronome of how we study the different, how to read it, like the iqa, the sort of, and tajweed, and all that, all itself is in itself. I think it's a guide in itself.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We've had quite a, extended session. I could honestly stay for another couple of hours because I have really not much to do here in India.
Oh my God, for you.
I get tea served and food served and all of that. But I want to just honor are equally, we're talking about female guides and so forth. So we have with us in the room here Karen Ray Wilson. She's from the States, and she's a female guide, and she holds space for women and so forth. But she's come, I guess, at the perfect time, because everything is perfect in terms of when and what. So if Karen Ray, if you'd like to ask anything as our wrap up to Kitty, Amina, then please, by all means, we'd love to have just this sort of conversation, or sohba, as we say, as a means to wrap up the space. And if, of course, anybody else has anything they want to comment or ask, just do so, because we should be wrapping up.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's good.
You, but I can hear you.
I'm so sorry. It's very early here in the States, and I just woke up and saw this invitation. So I'm not really in a position to open up my video in the moment, but I wanted to come on. So I've missed a great deal of this, but I think the theme is that you've been speaking about the feminine presence within the writings of the Quran. Is that correct?
No, it was basically not so deep into anything. So basically just speaking about how I came to Islam, how I met Isha, and how everything kind of like the flow, basically. Yeah.
Right. So I'm so sorry, Kitty, because I didn't begin, it was 6 a.m. I think when this started here. So I didn't begin at the beginning. I don't know enough about you in the moment, other than I just tuned in, and I'm grateful to be here even for a short period of time. But you are a writer, Kitty, are you?
No, I just like, I don't actually, I mean, I'm like a researcher, really, actually.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess that one thing I could say is because I've worked with so many women over the last 30 years, it seems like, but particularly to do with their own sovereignty and their own coming into their own voices and power. But the need right now for a feminine cosmology within, from my perspective, for feminine cosmology within every spiritual tradition is so profound.
Yeah.
Because so many women have such a profound overlap of patriarchy throughout all of the spiritual traditions. And I can't even tell you the amount of stories I've listened to of women who have been, unfortunately, manipulated by male spiritual principle and people and ideas from every tradition. And just yesterday, I worked with a woman, and it reiterated throughout several spiritual traditions in the States how she had been taken advantage of in that perspective through the cosmology of male spiritual teachers. And it reinforced for me again the need for the feminine perspective and voice of what it means to be deeply in touch with the divine nature. And to interpret through that lens is, I think, one of the greatest needs of our time, in order for women to become fully equal to men in the world, really. So I don't know. I hope that's in context with everything else that's been said here.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I was saying is maybe the most controversial thing in this time, because because I think I have to. I grew up actually in East Germany, right? So like this whole kind of like so there there was no emphasis on religion, or just like in the home setting, you would have like what was left basically from old days, in traditional like blend, but also like the role of the female, like there was always to, I always seeked, like as a smaller child, I was like always thinking I would have rather have my mother back home, you know, she was a teacher, she was going to work, and like my dad had died very early, and so we were for a long time alone with my mother. And I think that, of course, that had an effect on me, right? But like, it's also in this whole environment, my females became like very like masculine, actually, right? So for me, I was always in this kind of like, I think it was more like not really conscious even, but it's like I was more like seeking like true femininity in the warmth, and like in this ability to submit, actually, you know, in a marriage also. So I think everybody have to kind of, now the whole, what you just said, you know, we are in need of there are so many people who have been like suppressed by masculinity. I don't know what is now kind of upcoming is maybe not really this kind of like a liberation of females. I'm not really sure if that is actually what I'm talking about, you know. I'm more in search of like true femininity, like in a motherly sense, you know, which I think that's what I think the whole gender concept is out of balance, you know, like true masculinity and true femininity. So I mean, yeah, I'm not even sure if if this is expressed properly, but I think this liberation of women, there is a big danger in it too, in my opinion, actually. Yeah.
If I could respond just briefly to that, because I hear exactly what you're saying, and it's also a very important point. But one can be deeply immersed in a feminine cosmology that is not anti-men, and that is absolutely very feminine, very, very feminine, and includes the Divine Mother. And, you know, having had two people stay with me over the last year who were also from East Germany, and some of the thought I've given about, you know, really what happened during the Second World War in Germany, from my perspective, is that unfortunately, through the movement of Hitler, one thing Hitler did very effectively was suck all the feminine energy out of the culture.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what he worked on. That's what he tried to do, because then you can do whatever you want, you know?
Yeah.
And so I totally hear that there's also a longing on the part of many women to discover what it means to deeply be in the frequency of the feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could be in the frequency of the feminine, and they could experience what the ancient feminine energy even was, back to the time of, say, you know, Mary and Magdalene and all the different Egyptian goddesses even, right? So there is a way to find that within the structure of dismantling some of the other things that have gotten in the way. So they're not mutually exclusive. That's what I would like to say. They're definitely not. The invitation is to come deeply into the feminine and all of the aspects of that. And that doesn't always mean that it's anti-male at all. You know, the opportunity for sacred partnership within the feminine perspective. And that could be women with women. It could be women with men. What is called, you know, Hyros Gamos, or the divine love. Just a mirror for the love of the divine anyway. I mean, hopefully. And so I just want to say I'm certainly not discrediting or minimizing what you're saying, or that I disagree with what you're saying. Okay, I've said quite a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And again, we can probably go on for quite a bit. Is there anyone else who would like to just have any, I don't want to miss out on anyone because it's been a while now. So if there's anyone who'd like to ask Kitty anything or just mention anything, then please do so. And then we'll wrap. And then this session or this live will be available on YouTube with the rest of our previous episodes. Oh, yes. No escaping.
I'll jump in. Yes, salams. It's a pleasure to meet you, Kitty. Alicia has been gushing about you all the time, so I'm like, is she for real? And yeah, now we get to meet, and Madiha and I, inshallah, will be going to meet for tea in Istanbul sometime in
Oh,
2025. So everyone's welcome to join us. We're having tea. Yeah, we're gonna have tea all over the world nowadays. So henceforth, hopefully we'll meet you there.
oh, inshallah, that would be very nice.
She's your guide for Turkey.
No. Yeah, I'm actually giving tours in Istanbul, really. If you want a tour in Istanbul,
Absolutely. And in fact, like it just something surfaced up today. Well, as I was listening to you speaking, like maybe if we were to have retreats, then one of the perks would be to meet phenomenal people living in there. And so Turkey would be, definitely a bonus for anybody to meet you.
oh, thank you.
So
Yeah, it's actually, I live in Istanbul, actually, so whenever you come, you can make tours.
beautiful. Thank
Mm.
you. We'll be in touch. Thanks,
Be in
Saida,
touch.
for doing this.
Thank you.
Doing this.
No, it's thank you for doing this. Like everybody's here, so we're all doing this. And I'm not the best at opening and closing spaces. And if you don't mind me targeting you, Madiha, from Canada, Miss Mandela's and all of that. Would you like to close our space? If you're okay to do that?
Me?
Madiha. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other Madiha, I assume.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her. I'm very
I-
really hoping to actually get to know her.
Yeah, I haven't
Share
bullied
with
her in a
have
while.
another Madiha.
Yeah.
Salam, everyone. Thank you so much for this honor and for putting me on the spot like you are so good at, Alicia.
Yeah.
I
A lot
was
of
just
people came last minute.
I just grabbed my drum. So I will just do some drumming to close the space if that's okay. And I hope that the sound will be clear for everyone.
Can't really hear. Let's see if we can. Let's see.
Let me see if I can turn on. Maybe if I disconnect my headphones. Can you hear that now?
No, I don't.
Louder? Is it possible?
I don't hear it.
It was working as the camera was more near. I noticed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think it's it's a setting that I'm not able to turn on my phone. So I think only the first sound is audible. And after that, maybe it's not audible anymore.
Yeah, maybe.
So do we just listen to our heartbeat as the drum?
Yeah, let's do that. So yeah, let's place our hands on our hearts. Just tune into the heartbeat. the expansion and the contraction, and the balance of the two. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Mahabba. Thank you, Madiha.
Thank you also.
Nazia, Wisat, Madiha, of course, Karen Ray, Nazneen, Louisa, who isn't here, and just wondering if anybody, oh, Mehtab, who was here as well. So, and then all the invisible and those who aren't present. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
for the
also.
invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Bye bye.
Okay.
That's